Okay, everyone, if you could please find your seats. It is that time of the evening you've all been waiting for. It is the presidential hustings. Oh boy, it's the big one. So we have our two candidates. We have James Butler and we have Liam Jackson. They'll both be making their 2-minute speeches, preceded by the questions. Same order. I think we're all getting the hang of it by now. So without further ado, I'd like to invite James Butler to make his 2-minute speech.
Well, as I'm sure you've gathered by now, I'm James Butler. I'm running to be your next SU president. My manifesto contains a comprehensive plan to how I plan to reform the SU. But really, some of the major areas of my manifesto can be condensed down to 3 sentences. I'm looking to reform the relationships the SU has with the wider student body. I'm looking to refocus the priorities of the student union, and I'm also looking to reform the processes by which the SU operates. Firstly, its relationships. I think that sports and society should be more independent from the student union. What business does the SU have to interfere in their matters more than necessary? We should let them get on with what they're doing. Secondly, refocusing priorities. I think the student union should be focusing on student health, whether that's mental, physical, or sexual health. The SU should campaign on these vital issues. And thirdly, reform of the processes by which it operates. Democracy at the SU is failing, and frankly, the Boer newspaper is all the proof you need to see that. You look at the back, you see how many positions no one's running for. You read it, you see how many positions there's only 1 or 2 people running for, and the SU body numbering 20,000 odd. Well, over that. And your first statistic is nominations are down by 25% from last year. I have a series of measures I want to improve democracy. Firstly, I want to reintroduce student councillors onto the student council to improve representation and to have diversity of opinion in this vital student union body. I also want termly written reports by sabbatical officers to be found on the Warwick SU website. Currently, there are reports in the student council, but the visibility of these is very low. Also, I want to have the visibility of the student council improved. It's a highly important body, yet no one knows about it. All this and more can be found on my
I'm going to have to cut you off there, James.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now the 2-minute speech from Liam Jackson.
Hi guys, thanks Niall. So yeah, I'm Liam, I'm your education officer this year, and I'm running to be your next SU president. I'll tell you why I think I'm doing this, because I've done a lot this year as education officer. I've made this university prioritise study space with a study space finder app on its way. Lecture capture has seen its greatest expansion ever. I have set up a working group at a task force with the university to tackle course costs head on. I've also set up the Hidden Histories lecture series as part of my work liberating the curriculum. I have also lobbied for a wellbeing centre in the heart of campus. Senate House will be transformed into a student services hub. So yeah, these were my top 5 priorities running for education officer. And just in 6 months, I've done all of them. If you vote for me as your president, I will get stuff done. I know how to get stuff done. I have and will campaign and fight tooth and nail for students' experience and your rights, especially for the most marginalised. Elect me as your president and I will lobby to increase more study space on and off campus, following from the work I've already done this year. Securing replacement bus passes this year, I want to carry on with this work. I want to tackle overcrowding, and I want to lobby for cheaper buses subsidised by the university. Students deserve better housing. I will create a Rate My Landlord tool to shame and incentivise landlords and their properties. Sleep deprivation is a cause and effect of poor well-being. I will get the university to install sleeping and relaxation facilities. I want sports to be more accessible. I want to create a multi-year sports federation to keep the costs down. You can find my full manifesto online, which has many more points. But please, vote Liam for president. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liam. Before we proceed on to the questions, could I just ask the person at the back, please Do not wave signs whilst candidates are speaking. It's disrespectful, and this isn't a campaigning space right now. This is a chance for us to hear from the candidates. So I'd appreciate if that didn't happen again. Thank you very much. So, on to the set questions. So, question number one, and James, we'll start off with you on this. As the President, you will work very closely with our part-time liberation and diversity officers, and we'll be representing our hugely diverse student body on a range of issues. What are your plans for supporting and developing liberation and diversity campaigns at Warwick? And you'll have 1 minute.
Well, on Monday, I had a great meeting with members of the LGBTQIA community and also women officers, and I had a great conversation on what they see as problems within the SU. Firstly, one of the issues that seem to crop up is division of labour between part-time officers and sabbatical officers. Whose work is it to do that? And also better cooperation, because really all these sabbatical officers in some way, liberation issues can impact them. So I would like to, as President, work through these issues. I've only had a meeting or two and talked with a few people, but a comprehensive plan to improve this would be great. Also, I'm looking to reform the relationship with sports and societies, so if there's any way I can sort of get their input on that when we're having this reformation of the relationship, I think would be great.
Thank you very much, James. Liam.
So I think the role of the President with the part-time officers is to champion and support part-time officers and liberation officers. In my role as President, what I will do is create monthly meetings, termly meetings, whatever suits PTOs to actually get their voices heard. In my manifesto, I've got things about, championing marginalised voices. I want to tackle racism. I want to tackle sexual violence. So we'll be carrying on the We Get Consent campaign in partnership with the PTO, the women's officers, etc. And I also want to prevent more hate crime. So, working with the part-time officers is essential and crucial for these, really important points. So absolutely, I'll be supporting them.
Thank you very much, Liam. And we'll be sticking with you as we move into the second question, which is, what is your perspective on students' unions engaging in national campaigning issues?
I don't see a dichotomy there. National issues are student issues, and when a government attacks students' rights and anything that they do, we must attack, we must fight back, because students' rights are going to be affected by the government. I see no issue there.
Thank you very much, Liam. James?
On the topic of national issues and the SU going into that debate, I think very specifically the student union should focus on national issues that directly impact students. Otherwise, I think the student union should be focusing on the one people they're mandated to focus on, and that's students. Too much, I think, has been too much student grandiose politics going on sometimes in the student union, whereas really they should be focusing on the student union and focusing on improving welfare, improving health, and improving generally the conditions for students at the student union and at Warwick.
Thank you very much, James. And once again, we'll be staying with you on this one, James. As President of the Students' Union, what would be your approach to working with university management?
Well, with dealing with university management, there's sort of two blocks, diplomacy and opposition, and it's knowing when to use these. Now, I think there's great opportunities with diplomacy with the university. For example, from a Freedom of Information request, Warwick University has no mental health strategy university-wide, and I think the student union could work with the university to implement things like that. But that's not to say that I would to hide away from using opposition. When the university is not operating in the interest of students, then you fundamentally have to be opposed and look out for students.
Thank you very much, James. And Liam?
Yeah, I would agree with James. Work with them when it's in the interest to work with them. However, you cannot be afraid to go against what the university are doing. A lot of the things they are doing at the moment are directly, inherently against what students and what students' rights are. For example, the extortion amounts that they are paying the Vice-Chancellor, not good enough. We need student representation there. Lots of the university policies and lots of what they're doing, especially with the strikes as well, we need to be in solidarity with them, and we have to be against them sometimes. But it's working that right balance, and I've done it before in my role as education officer. I can do that again.
Thank you very much, Liam. And now it is time to extend the questioning to the floor. So if you have a question, please do put your hand up. And I think we'll start off. First hand was Christian's down the front here. Ellie.
Thank you. So yesterday, Warwick Anti-Casualisation had an action at the strike in support of postgrads who are facing horrible teaching conditions. What is your position on that, and what is your position on the strike?
As Big Ben said before, an injury for staff is an injury for students. We have to be in solidarity with our workers and our academic staff. Absolutely support the strikes. I have been on the picket line every day. We need to show support. We should not cross the picket line. Do not go to your lectures or seminars, because that is undermining the strike and your staff. Also, on the point of casualisation, absolutely. In my manifesto, I said that we need to actually pay postgrads who teach properly and fairly and transparently. I will work with the PG officers to do that. So important.
Thank you very much, Liam. James?
With the current strikes going on, I think the important distinction to make is supporting the cause and supporting the strike. Now, the cause is the pension changes, and I have a lot of sympathy for what's happening to the pensions. However, fundamentally, whether you agree with the cause or not, strikes are intended to hurt students. They are intended to disrupt students. They are intended to make the government fold into the demands of the union. Now, as a student myself, and as trying to become a representative of students, I think I should be looking out for students and what they want. Now, there was a motion, of course, supporting this, and that's just my personal opinion. However, as my role as a representative, I will represent whatever the student body wants, but that is my personal opinion, that these strikes hurt students, and that's its intended cause.
Thank you very much, James. Another question from the floor. We have the man with the cup in his hand.
Sorry, I'm not a student, I'm 65. I paid £35,000 for my daughter to become a veterinary student, and she is now luckily a vet, but she still owes £30-something thousand. What can you do about helping her to pay off her debt, which, if you, in reality, was £70,000? That's a question.
I know it's highly unorthodox to take a question from a non-student, but we'll accept it nonetheless. Sorry? Yeah, James, your chance to start us.
Well, the student union has the policy to oppose tuition fees, and I will try and fulfill that. Currently, the current government is going through a review of the tuition fees system, and one of those things they're looking at is interest rates. And the president of the student union does work with government bodies and such on dealing with these things. So as a student, if I was the president of the student union, I'd go into these things trying to reduce or remove or whatever with these interest rates, and to help people with current debt, and also to oppose tuition fees in general as mandated by the role.
Thank you very much, James. And Liam?
What successive governments have done to the higher education sector, especially with tuition fees and how much debt students have to pay, is disgusting, and we need to fight it at every level. Last year, I went on the national demo to oppose fees and cuts. So, absolutely, I will be championing what is SU policy to abolish tuition fees. Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Liam. Ellie, we have a question down front over here.
What experience do you have that you think, sorry, I'm going to phrase that again. What experience do you think you have which would make you perfect for the role of president?
Okie dokie, it's Liam to start us off on that question.
So I've been education officer, which is a sabbatical role, for 6 months as it is, and with that it comes deputy president. So when Hope's off sick, sometimes I'm president. It's quite fun. Anyway, but no, I think I have the experience. I have been a faculty rep. I have been the chair of the education exec. I am obviously an education officer now. I've done so much in the SU at my time here, and I know what needs to be done. I know how to get things done. So please, I think I'm the only person who's experienced enough for this role.
Thank you very much, Liam. James?
Well, I believe I bring different experience than what's come before. Liam here will be if he's elected, the third education officer to president. So if you're talking about bringing different experience, it's very much the same that has come before. Whereas I am a current student. I have been in the student population. I have not been in the SU HQ for the past 6 months or so. Well, not hiding out, but that's where they mainly reside. I've been listening to students. I've been hearing what they think, what their opinions are, where they think things need to change. And I think that is experience that previous candidates that have ran don't have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. Any more questions from the floor? We've got a question out back. Person with the cap.
Oh, okay.
And we've got you.
Hi, you've both stated your positions on strikes. I'd like to just rephrase it a little bit. If you're a third-year undergraduate student about to get your degree and your teachers walk out of lectures and seminars, are you betraying your staff by deciding to go to lectures or seminars and get your degree? Thanks.
Okay, I believe it is James to start us off on that.
Well, that is fundamentally one of the reasons I am opposed to strikes, since it hurts students. Third years may not be able to graduate. Strikes may be extended into exams, and the general disruption that strikes cause. That is my personal opinion. However, you have to take yourself out of the role as president. If there is motions or policies to support this, I will not renege on my mandate. But personally, I will argue against it tooth and nail, because I do, as you say, think it hurts students in these various ways.
Thank you very much, James. And Liam?
In a short word, no. What actually is betraying is if you are crossing the picket line and actually what you're doing there is destroying higher education as we know it anyway. This is so, so important to support this strike. Yes, I understand your concerns that you're a third year. The university are mitigating the losses, but that doesn't mean you can't still support it, because you know what? An attack on staff is an attack on students. We cannot get the best people for the jobs to educate you if they are not paid what their fair share is in their pension. So I urge you all to support the strike.
Thank you very much, Liam. Next question. We'll stick with, there's another one at the back there, Ellie, then we'll move forward. There I've spotted 2 hands.
In light of the recent motion passed by the Student Union, I was wondering what your view is on the motion regarding Michael Gove and the fact that the President's got to send a letter. I was just wondering what your view on the motion is.
Okie dokie, so Liam, you can start us off with your opinion on a recent motion.
So the recent motion, if I remember it, was about championing the 25-year plan. Great, okay. Sure. I'm very much looking forward for the President to write a letter to Michael Gove to say, you know, what great work he's doing in the environment sector. But also, you know what? How much, you know, crap he did as education secretary, how he destroyed education for many, many more generations to come.
Thank you very much, Liam. James?
Well, I think motions like that are quite a bit fun. I mean, student union shouldn't take itself so seriously sometimes. Now, writing a letter to Michael Gove, that's a bit of fun. I like to imagine his beaming face when he opens it. And there's been other motions in the past, like renaming the president Carl or Carlisi. I like those motions. I highly encourage them. I mean, also the Gove one did have some policies to implement some green measures. It's not all fun and games, but I do think that it's a good thing to interject some humour into the proceedings. I heard a lot of the executives, when it was going through, found them quite funny, a lot of the motions. Like the royal wedding one, I believe that's going to be played on the big screen when it happens.
Thank you very much, James. Another question. Questions? We've got Alex down here.
What will you do to tackle the study space crisis on campus?
Okay, we'll start with you on that one, James.
Well, I see this as an ongoing crisis that has not really had one actual solution to it. Now, there's talk of getting the university promised to build a second library, and I think that's all well and good, but it doesn't help current students right now. I think there could be greater utilization of empty seminar rooms and lecture rooms. I think that there could also be not just focus on the library. I mean, there's other learning areas like the learning grids where you could argue for more to be built, or the ones that are here to be expanded upon. But yes, it is a serious issue, study space, especially in term 3, and I do focus on that in my manifesto. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. Liam?
A big part of my manifesto is about increasing study space, but I've done a lot of work in this area already this year. I have set up a study space working group with the university. We've got an analyst hired on study space as well, who's looking at this. And also we've been going around with the university, looking at places where we can just put more study space around. So, you know, we're doing all these things. We've got the technology enhancement as well, where I've mentioned before, the Study Space Finder app was my key manifesto point last year. That's in the works. I want to see that happen. I also, at the same time, want to see more learning grids off campus as well, and with expanded hours. I want, you know, a second library, obviously, and that will take a lot of, you know, lobbying to get the second library that we want. But it's also about, yes, the study space right now, and we can do that.
Thank you very much, Liam. We've reached that point in proceedings where I'm going to cut the answers down to 30 seconds. You'll be warned at 20, and I am giving us a cut-off of 7:15. You'll probably be relieved to hear. So we have 12 more minutes to get our questions in, though, and I know that Emily has had her hand up for a considerable amount of time.
Really simple. What has been your favourite experience working within the SU as an officer or as a student?
So I suppose, could we make that question more applicable to both candidates?
So within the like as a member of the student body, how has the SU been positive for you?
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll start off with Liam on that question.
I suppose there's quite a few things I can't say here, can I? What's been a positive experience. However, what I will say is that just being at university for the first, I was the first generation to go into university in my family, coming here, seeing, you know, all wide different range of opinions, views, and people has been so amazing and so empowering, and that's why I think I'm standing for president, so I can champion all these people.
Thank you very much, Liam. And James?
My favourite experience specifically with the SU would probably be this latest ASM and the motions that were proposed, or the reactions to those in student council, meetings of other various political groups, and in the room here today, well not today, in the room where it was interesting to argue it was interesting to stand up here, and it was one of my favourite experiences with the SU.
Thank you very much, James. On to our next question. John has a question.
Many of us here may remember when there were votes at various universities across the country on NUS disaffiliation, which ultimately at Warwick failed. And since then, yes, NUS has faded back into the background of Warwick politics. How important do you feel this union's relationship with the NUS is going forwards?
Okay, and James, you'd like to start us off? Yes, how important do you think the relationship with the NUS is?
I think it depends really what's happening in the NUS. Because there have been in the past rather, I would argue, silly motions that are not really going to impact students and should be focusing on students, like try to, abolish the monarchy, get rid of Trident. I mean, what business does that have in the National Union of Students? Try and deal with students. But I think currently the leadership is a bit better than, and the motions going through are a bit better now.
Thank you very much, James. And Liam?
Whilst the NUS has its flaws, I can name quite a few. I'm not going to. The NUS is so important because we need a collective union of students to fight the government and fight other organisations as a collective, because you know what? As a Warwick SU, we can do lots, but we can't do everything. We need to find allies in other institutions and other unions. That's why the NUS is so important.
Thank you very much, Liam. Next question, please. We've got one from the person in the hat.
Hiya. I was going to say probably my most kind of like challenging university experience has been really bad accommodation in third year in particular. I wanted to know how you would stop or help students who end up in like squalid conditions, or how you can sort of improve the housing sector for students.
Okay, did you both hear the question? Okay. So yeah, how you would help students living in poor living conditions, in particular third-year students was what the question alluded to. And Liam, if you'd like to start us off.
Yeah, so this is a big problem that a lot of students face, and students just deserve better housing. What I said in my manifesto is that I will create a Rate My Landlord tool. I think this would be a fantastic idea because we can name and shame landlords, but also incentivize landlords to actually make their properties better and, frankly, more habitable for students. I'll work with the Advice Centre and all sorts to actually, improve the quality of housing too.
Thank you very much, Liam. And James?
I agree with Liam that the student union can deal with landlords, or dodgy landlords specifically. I mean, it really goes down to the basis of what the union is. It can look out for the individuals that hurt its members, and I think that the student union could do good work on watching out for landlords, dealing with landlords that perhaps are hurting students with poor accommodation, poor support, or just terrible pricing. But I think the student union can do quite a bit with its collective power.
Thank you very much, James. Another question, and I think...
Thank you for the reminder about the royal wedding. I'm going to get on that. I need to ask them about that. But what would you do to make sports and societies more accessible to students?
Well, one of the areas I tackle with sports and societies, the fees that they have to, SU fees in relation to sports and societies. And if possible, I'd like to reduce those and make it more accessible to everyone. If there's lower fees, there's less of a sort of pre-apprehension to join them. Also, as I said, I'm looking to reform the relationship we have with sports and societies, and that's certainly one of the things that we can look at when we're reforming that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. And Liam?
So a big part of my manifesto is to make sports, specifically sports, more accessible. I will do this following on from the stuff that Niall's been doing this year with the multi-year socks fed. I want to have that with a multi-year sports fed, so it's more affordable and accessible for more students. I also want to put on some more free sport activities for well-being, because that's so important, especially in term 3, and also as a referral method from wellbeing services. I've also got things there in societies as well about how we can showcase more events to make that more accessible to them, and also how they can...
Thank you very much, Liam.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Warwick SU's Board of Trustees is an incredibly formal part of the role and would give you a great amount of responsibility. As president, you would be the chair of this board. What experience do you have that would mean you have the leadership to fulfill it properly?
Did you hear that question okay?
Well, this is quite an easy one because I'm already a trustee. So I know exactly the roles and responsibilities of the Board of Trustees and how I can chair that as well. I think I'll be good at that. And yeah, quite simple.
Thank you very much, Liam. And James?
Well, my view is, to quote Mr. Kanye West, no one man should have all that power. If possible, I'd like a separation of powers from being the chair and being the president, and direct elections for chair of the Board of Trustees. I think it would improve, I think it would allow students a greater choice and greater decision. And also I think it makes the president has a bit too much influence to implement certain things, perhaps without proper opposition.
Thank you very much, James. Another question.
Hello. So believe me when I say, as president, you will come under a lot of scrutiny, and even from time to time, nastiness or outright hatred. But that scrutiny element is obviously important because you are the elected representative, and ultimately you are the president of the union. And also, as president, you have a responsibility to the other officers, not just in your sabbatical team, but all of the officers elected within our union, to ensure that that level of scrutiny is available there too. But how would you balance that accountability with the welfare side of things and ensuring that all of our elected officers are properly supported and that their welfare isn't damaged by that?
Okay, thank you very much. And James, if you'd start us off.
Well, it's an important tightrope to run because you can't have sabbatical officers without scrutiny and without accountability. but welfare and their well-being should be at top priority. So I think there should be clear rules on what can be said and how far people can go. We don't want people crossing the line on when they're talking to sabbatical officers. Because no one wants derogatory things said to them. No one wants to be called names, terrible names specifically. But it can be found on Facebook, people on groups saying it, and I think certainly the student union should focus on the well-being of their own sabbatical officers.
Thank you very much, James. And Liam?
So I've seen firsthand the levels of scrutiny that comes under elected officers. Some justified, some absolutely not justified, which is fine. That's what happens. So as president, you have a big role there of supporting all of the other sabbatical officers and also the part-time officers. First and foremost, they need to be, made sure that they feel comfortable coming to you for anything. And I think I'm quite a nice guy, so I can, you can come to me with anything. But absolutely, the welfare of officers comes first.
So that concludes this evening's hustings. Voting opens tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Whoopee. Do get voting. Make sure to spread the word. And if we could just have a round of applause for our elections assistant, Alice, who's been waving her arm very well and keeping time excellently this evening. So thank you very much. Best of luck to candidates for the rest of the week, campaigning, and thank you for attending this evening.